All right, welcome back for the episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Thursday, January 4th, 2024. If you're not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. You can find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts, analysis, and live day trading. Again, just reiterating, active trader here for the month of January, 60% off for your first month. So we're doing that promotion till the end of the month. If you want to check that out. It's right there for you on carnivoretrades.com. 2 for 2 today. So nice start to the year, and 4 for 4 to start the year. Anyways, markets here today, basically flat, although that doesn't really tell the story. We did gap down slightly, and we had kind of a float up. I talked about this earlier in the short. You're going to see here the ES, well, really, and the Yen Q, but, kind of just looking at these. A little bit of divergence there, kind of building on the 4-hour, and it's still there, and you can see it on the hourly as well. We're really starting to get worked. We take a look at the NQ. That's really starting to get beat down, and pretty oversold there on the 4-hour. Now, again, we've had a big run up, but again, we talked about that. We were looking for a bounce this morning, and we got that. And right into that kind of, again, to go back to the SPX is what I do most of my work off of. We went right into that 47.25 area. I was looking for a little bit higher, maybe 47.30. We didn't quite get there. And then we just kind of like melted down, not melted down, but rolled over into the lows of the day, a little bear flag, and now just kind of hovering above the kind of 4,700 handle. I've talked about this here. The bears, you got to break this. So they're kind of running out of time here to do real damage to the chart. Before we start to see some kind of like positive flows come back into the market here. The longer this just kind of consolidates here and just works off this overbought condition without damaging the chart, the more it just becomes bullish consolidation here. Now, I wouldn't say, again, there's still 45 minutes left in doing the video a little early as we do our Thursday live stream after the bell for members. So we could sell off a little bit here. In fact, we're down ticking right now. But you got to do damage, and I wouldn't rule out, again, 46.50. That's certainly a possibility for tomorrow, right? And the triple Qs here, again, you're not that much far off of this area here, right? 393 pivot high with that breakout area. So there is some levels that could get hit here that we're kind of coming into. So they're targeting that 4,700. They've been doing that for the last 2 days. And they might break that, and if they do, again, there's some levels here. 46.75 is a gamma wall that will be looked at on the 0DTE tomorrow morning. And again, if we do start to break down hard in the next 45 minutes, that will be a target. But 46.50 is your big level. But for right now, again, we had a 700 point move. 700 point move in like 8 weeks. So we're going to have to pull back, and that is to be expected. Now, we did get some news this morning. This company here, Mobileye, basically like reported like horrible guidance and horrible, for their next quarter. This company is not a big deal, but Intel does business with them, and they got hit really hard. But Intel came really sharply off the lows here, and actually not terrible close here, down 7 cents. So anytime you get bad news and you rally up like that off the lows, it's definitely a good sign. We also just hit some news from Marvel. They just hit the wire here. I believe their CEO kind of like raised forward guidance there. So they got a big pop, and that is helping the SMH come up off the lows, as you can see here. But it is coming back in, as it looks like those gamma boys are trying to push down to that double bottom there as I speak and do this video. But, a little bit of news here, not a whole lot going on. We got ADP this morning. That beat expectations of the upside, although yields didn't really rock and roll to the upside. We're not like above yesterday's high. You can see the TNX there. So not a ton of follow through. And if we even take a look at the dollar, which of course we'll do later, the dollar, it's pulled back today. So nothing terrible for the dollar, but it didn't exactly spike higher on the news. Non-farm payrolls will obviously be the big one tomorrow, as that is the number the market really keys off of. But right now, again, taking a look at the spiders or the SPX, if you'd rather, we're sitting right at 4,700. And, the bears really need to break 46.50 and then 4,600 if there's going to be any sort of real damage here. But I'm kind of in the camp here that this market still can go higher, believe it or not. I know we've had a massive 3-day pullback and everybody's bearish now, but, this is kind of what you expect after a big, large run here. But again, we'll take it level by level, and tomorrow would be 4,600. And then you could also say, if we go back here, you have a pivot at 4634 and then the 4600 whole round number. So those would be targets on the downside if we do come in. But again, I don't think there's any sort of reason here to panic or get too crazy just yet. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the bears can prove me wrong, but we'll have to see how that plays out. By the way, volume is also very light today. The last 2 days, we've had good volume, but today definitely dropped off quite a bit. So generally, you want to see, if you're a bear, you want to see that kind of increase on the way down. We saw it increase at the top here, but not so much today. And again, we're basically just flat to lower right now. So again, we won't make too much out of it just yet. Anyways, the Qs here, which we briefly touched on, you get a big level right there around 394. We could even gap down into that tomorrow on the NFP. And then again, it's going to be on, the onus is on the bears to break this down, right? But we've had a big move. We take a look at the weekly. You know, you're pulling back here pretty sharply, I might add, but you are pulling back here. Bears have short-term control, but the onus is on the bears to break this down, right? You have to damage the chart. It's not enough just to have a 3-day pullback. It's not enough just to peak below the 20 moving average. You need to have technical damage, and you need to have follow through. And I prefer to see it on heavier volume here. But right now, those are the levels I'm watching for the Qs. The Russell 2000 is actually green, so it's up 15 cents. So not a terrible day. Still hasn't filled this gap here. We'll have to see if we break through this. Again, the problem with the Russell is you've kind of squeezed up. So you could go down to 187.50. That would be kind of your next area. That's where we broke out of previously. Again, I don't think we go down there in a straight line. You know, another level we could take here is just draw a fib. And, you know, yeah, you got a 382 at 180, 189 essentially. So right in that zone will be kind of your next big level, but we'll have to see what kind of pattern that puts in. But again, it is green on the day, and I'm not going to get too bearish if the Russell's getting a bounce here. Additionally, I mentioned this on X earlier, but, you know, take a look at JPM, Wells, Citi, Goldman, Morgan Stanley. Look at the KBWB. Look at the bank index. That's a bull flag on the daily. I'm not going to get too bearish with fins holding up. So again, you guys know my thoughts here. I don't need to keep saying it over and over, but that's just what I'm seeing right now on the charts. Dow is up 25 basis points. Again, speaking of fins, Goldman, JP Morgan up. That's going to help out the Dow. United Health, not UNG, United Health up 58 basis points, but having a nice surge off the lows. That is helping out the Dow. And speaking of the Dow, that actually did crack positive for the year briefly this morning. And again, UNH, Goldman, JPM doing all the heavy lifting there. Anyways, semiconductors, we talked about those companies earlier. MRVL getting a nice bid. Intel with a nice pop off the lows. Told you guys 165. That's where we went, and we got to pop off that. Now, can the bulls follow through? If they do, at least you get to the 20 moving average, right? So bare minimum, I would think that would be your retrace level. Let's take another fib there, and you're going to see the 50% retrace lines up almost perfectly with that. And then your 618 is at 172. So again, no guarantees it bounces here. Again, there's a gap down here. You've got the previous high. You know, there's a 50 moving average. We could get down there tomorrow on NFP. If we look at the SOX, right into 39, right? We talked about that. Look at that. We gap down and then right up off the lows there. It is coming in off the highs towards, you know, it has come in off the highs since the morning, but we got the pop on the MRVL and now just a little pullback there. But those levels are pretty good. Next one, if we were to get down there, is 38. And then the gap fill right there. So again, you know, there's your 50 MA. If this does put in a low, we follow through to maybe we gap and go tomorrow. Again, there's your 20 MA, and you know, I would say 41 is your gap window. And you know, you got a 50% fib right there at 40.50, right? So there's plenty of good levels here. But again, I told you guys that this level would probably coincide with 165 on the SMH, and it did really well. So nice to see those levels. Working on the charts, doing their thing. Anyways, IGV here, again, basically on the flat side, down just 20 cents on the day. Not a big deal. It's holding on to this little gap, kind of like gap window area, right? If this consolidates here, it's bearish and it can go lower. Or it could just really continue to slice it down. But I think you'd probably need a little daily consolidation to do that. Either way, you've got a gap here at 382.70. And again, that also coincides with the 50 moving average. Right, so levels start, well, I guess it's a little bit lower, but either way, there's a level there, there's a little consolidation and right into that zone. So again, if we gap down, that's probably where it's going to go. If we push higher, where do you think it's going? Right back to that 20 MA. So that's generally how markets work. But IGV down 22 cents again. Let's not make too much out of it yet. Dow Transport's also managing to scratch out a gain, although there's about 35 minutes left in the day, so there's nothing to say we can't come back down. Let's take a look here. Yeah, Spider's trying to hang on to that double bottom here. But, you know, we had a pretty good decline yesterday, ugly decline, and it did pull back pretty sharply. But again, managing to get a bounce. This is still not broken. Take a look at the Jets here too. Pretty good recovery for the Jets after that slam yesterday. I think American Airlines had news. So not a terrible recovery there for the Jets. We'll see if that can become a higher low. If it can, you can get back above, 15.6 on the DJT, get back above that 20 MA. This can go higher. But right now, definitely a nice little pullback there for DJT. And there's still a lot of support at 15.2, like a lot. So I think the transports are still safe right now, but definitely doing some pulling back. And, bears are definitely in control for the time being. All right, so interest rates here. So let me flip out of these, get out of this day trading stuff here. You see the 2-year here continued to inch up. And you are above that red bar. That's a positive for the 2-year. If that continues higher, you have a little bit of here at 4.45, 4.5. And then the big level is still kind of that 4.6, right? So back to this pivot, that breakdown, we talked about that previously. That's where it stalled out before we broke down. And then, your next level is 4.75, 4.8, and so on and so forth, back to those levels that we were talking about previously when we were down here. But nice little uptick there for the 2-year, 5-year, trying to get back above the 20. So the short end starting to firm up a little bit. You still got to retest 4.08. 10-year, still back above the 20, but again, didn't take out yesterday's high. I don't know if this wants to make a new low or not. I'm in the camp it can, but I'm not going to, jump in front of it and say that it can or can't do something. We'll just let the charts tell us. But I do think that even if it does, that's pretty much all the downside that's in for yields right now. Same thing with the 30-year. Still could make one more new low, but that's really it. That's all the downside I'm seeing for yields right now. And if they start upticking again, you got 4.2, and then really up to 4.75, 4.8, and that goes for the 10-year as well. Like 4.3 area, and then 4.5, 4.6, possibly 4.8. I know that sounds crazy, but that's just the way the pattern is set up. XHB here, so that is up 5 cents. Managing to scratch out a gain so far. We did negate that green bar yesterday. We talked about that. So that is definitely vulnerable. Again, doesn't mean it's going to crash in a straight line. Again, if the market holds up, this will likely hold up as well. But that does leave it vulnerable here. You can make a case that's a bear back test today too. So a little up move and now pulling back off the 20 MA. Again, it's still green in a down tape. So you also got to, give it that. But I would say this is probably going to want to go and retest that 86.50 area. I know I've talked about that before, unless it really repairs this structure here. But XHB, again, flat on the day, won't make too much out of it. VNQ flat as well. It's saving the 20 moving average for now. This can still firm up a little bit more. Let's get rid of this. We don't really need that anymore. This can still firm up here, and you can make a case that this is just putting in bull consolidation for another push up. But again, like I've been saying, I think it needs weekly consolidation with that 200 and 100 right there, and you got a pretty good pivot there, and there's a ton of resistance in that, so be aware of that. But VNQ holding up okay. XLF again continues to be strong. We talked about banks, new 52-week highs today. It did pull in, but I still think this wants 38.25. So I just don't really see anything terrible for banks here. I know JPM is top heavy. It's into double top. And, if you want to fade this, I'm not opposed to it, but, don't think this can't go a little bit higher. I'd rather you wait for a topping tail or an engulfing or something like that. I'm not against it, but this is really strong right now. And I still think based on the XLF, that 38.25 area, I still think it can go a little bit higher. And again, I've talked about Goldman. Look at what Wells did, right? Kissed the 20 yesterday, a little flush, and then popped right up. Look at BAC, same kind of deal. Little down move yesterday, and then these patterns are very good here. We talked about the bank index, KBWB, that's very good. KRE, a little bit weaker. So kind of below the 20 there, but still nothing terrible here. This can still hold up. Retest 49, $50, and it still has plenty of room for a higher low. Same thing with the KBE. 44 and then 43.50 are your next big levels if we continue pulling back. But I still think this can get up to this. This is kind of that pivot. This is why I say 43.25 area. That's kind of your big breakdown, or where your big breakdown occurred. And that's where right there and right there, the last of those bag holders are sitting. So in any case, broker dealers here managing to scratch out a gain as well. They are stronger earlier, came off the highs, still holding the 20 moving average. So that is still strong. Oil today is something we day traded. Got a quick scalp on that this morning. And this is still holding up. So this was all over the map. Big move this morning, big sell. And it came off the lows. Overall, this has, you could almost say an inside hammer kind of look. I'd prefer a little bit more. You close the day at 72.50. I'd say that's definitely an inside hammer type look, which is bullish. Right now, this is potentially working on what, right? A higher low, right? So if that can firm up here, I think this can push up into the low 80s, like I've said. But we need to see more of a pattern. We had a good one right here, and then it failed. And now can it put in a higher low? We'll continue to watch that. But again, I still think crude has already made a low, or is very close to making a low. But I'm not going to just go on assumptions. We got to let the charts tell us what to do. So anyways, XLE here. Now this one was horrible today. So big time gap and crap right up into the 100 moving average. Take a look at the intraday. Just a complete fade the entire day, all day long. So XLE ran into a lot of resistance at 87. XOP engulfing as well. Lots of resistance there. I like, let's let these go lower. OIH outside move down. I really would like this to get down to that 275, 280 area. So I'm rooting for it to continue lower. And but yeah, pretty good outside move here. I've avoided these names, and that's so far that's been a good decision. CCJ had a little pop there. So again, we'll watch that 42.50 area by the end of the week. URNM is fine as well. Nat gas with a big pop. So that we talked about the 280 area. Been talking about that since we started consolidating bullish here. You are into the 50 and 100. So it may stall out. You got a little bit of a chop zone right there. We'll see what it does. But I think ultimately, you got 3 and then kind of like 320. That was the last area where those big pivots are. But nice little turnaround there for nat gas. The weekly put in that nice little tail. And that let us know it was probably done selling here. So nat gas holding up much, much better over the last couple of days. Dollar index. So again, lower today, but it's holding up. I did put in this little channel here, by the way, so you can see pretty clearly. Dollar, basically an inside hammer there, inside doji, no problems. If it starts to head lower, what you'd want to look for is does it make a higher low? A lot of the time when you have these downsloping channels, typically they will break up, but sometimes you'll get a move like to the midline kind of area. And then once it puts in that higher low, that's how you know it's getting ready to break out. So I don't know if it's ready to break out. Maybe it is. Maybe it'll push up tomorrow. It certainly could. Maybe we have a non-farm payroll. Anything can happen. But that would be something I would be looking for potentially. But right now, nothing terrible there for the dollar. It is down, but it's holding up okay. And again, there's no real problems when you see that. Gold here is green as well. Not by much, but it's up $9. Never got to my 2030 area, 2025, 2030. It was just kind of a day trading level anyway, but it's holding up okay. Again, there's kind of like the geopolitical stuff going on right now. That's why gold and the dollar are up together. We'll see if that continues here. Pattern-wise, on the bigger time frames, gold is just fine. In the short term, though, if rates start to inch up, I think that's going to be a problem for PMs. I don't need to continue to reiterate that, but that's just kind of my thoughts into quarter one. Silver also coming down too. This one, I think some of my traders took this, but we talked about them in the trading room. I did not, but RSI starting to diverge there on the 4 hours. A little risky. You're going into the green bar, and it was starting to break down, but it worked out pretty well. And I think you could put in a little local low here, maybe even up to 23.50, 24. So silver looks okay. A little beaten down there. What I don't like is you sliced this trend line and kind of busted that nice uptrend there. So again, this may need to do some backing and filling, but short term, nothing to say it can't follow through up to 23.50, maybe 24. But outside of that, I'm just leaving it alone for now. Platinum here right into the 220. So that could be a drop and pop into the 20 MA 960 area. We've talked about that tomorrow, or we talked about that yesterday. So watch that into tomorrow. And then palladium here continuing to pull back. Remember, palladium is thin. It often overshoots. We'll look at this around 1,000, but ultimately I think the lows are in. And, could it make a W pattern? It could go to double bottom, certainly. But again, it's thin. And again, remember, we're looking at a monthly time frame here. So it's not always going to just be instant reward, even though it kind of was for a week or so. But we've had a nice pullback here, and I'm accumulating this on dips. Copper here, little outside move earlier, and then kind of back inside of yesterday's range. Down 31 basis points. We won't make too much out of it. You still have, you can make a case you still have higher lows. You could even say, maybe this is kind of a trend line right there. So we'll watch that again. I still think that can get into the low fours into the near term. A lot of volatility in the coins still lately. So again, yesterday we had that pretty good slice, and then we popped right back up today on Bitcoin. And this is why I said, watch the weekly, because the weekly looks fine. So, when you see those flash crashes, sometimes it's best to just zoom out. Is this broken? Everybody should know. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? So, right now, I don't see any problems with it. ETH, I don't like the outside move, but it's okay. Weekly. Is there anything wrong with that? Absolutely not, right? That's a bullish inside bar. Again, I still like Cardano. Still looks good. Solana, a little top heavy here. Some of these ones are getting a little outside of their, a little extended here. Polkadot's okay. Yeah, still fine. And we'll give it the upside bias to 48. Anyways, let's take a look here. So it's 330. We'll see if they hold double bottom. Yeah, they probably will, unless they try to raid this at the last second. Which, if they were going to raid it, I think they would have done it like an hour ago. If they really had conviction, they probably would have done it an hour ago. But big picture here, I think bears are kind of running out of time to break this down. But nothing to say we can't have a leg down to 46.50 tomorrow if they really flush us off the non-farm payroll. If they can't and we start to push up, you got to look at, you're going to have a gap fill up here. But again, there's nothing to say we can't slice that all-time high and test that. So we're very close. It would be a little unusual if we didn't, to be completely honest. So anyways, guys, going to wrap up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. We'll talk to you guys all tomorrow.